welcome to Slayerfest 98. I'm Ian Carlos Crawford.
I'm Philip Ellis.
And I'm Mae Shults. And we're here to talk about Angel Season 3, Episode 20, A New World.
What did we think of this episode, just in general? Philip, what'd you think?
So as I was telling you both before we started recording, I watched this just now with my husband, who has watched Buffy, but I don't think has ever watched Angel. And as I was sat there just very aware that this is maybe one of the worst episodes of a TV show to kind of sit through with anyone as an introduction. And I found myself like explaining plot bits to him, like, oh, well, this is Connor. When we last saw him, he was a baby. And then I realized like neither of us cared. I just stopped.
That is fair.
Yeah, it's a rough episode. They try and do something which I think Angel, sort of kind of left in season 1 or 2, which is like the kind of noiry, LA gritty. Yeah. Basically, they try and do an episode of The Wire in between all of this kind of like supernatural stuff, and it didn't work for me.
Yeah, no. Mae?
Yeah, I said off mic, this feels very much like a filler episode that it's not even super heavily plot driven. It's just like we need to touch base on all of these different things that aren't super connected, and we're going to put in a bunch of like upsetting stuff that doesn't really need to be there. I would much rather have good character moments than watch Connor hang out with a poor junkie lady who is, again, very sweet, but like, why are we doing that? Why are we back to that kind of gritty LA atmosphere instead of focusing on all of these amazing characters that we have that we've been spending time with all season?
And yeah, I mean, I agree with both of you. I actually was like, there's somewhere in my head where I was like, oh, this is the woman that hangs out with Connor, not Justine. And then I was like, oh no, she's dead. It is Justine. I was right the first time. Like,
so I got that character mixed up with that in season 4. There is a sex worker that spends an episode with Connor where I think he saves her from a vampire, and then
I don't remember that,
and then like expects that she's gonna like give him some kind of affection as reward. And I completely conflated the two in my head, because it's just like any female character when sharing an episode or a scene with Connor, it's just clapped vibes. Disgusting.
Yeah, and like, I don't know, there's a version where like that could be kind of interesting. He meets this like very sweet addict who's like kind to him, and like he's kind to her, and like I don't care if it's like 10 minutes of the plot. Like, I'm just like, well, why are we doing this? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, and it easily could have gone down the route of him like inspiring her to get clean, and I'm glad they didn't do that. But they also fridged her.
Yeah, they also killed her.
Yeah, they fridged her to motivate Connor to be even angrier about being in this new world.
And it didn't even, I don't even think it like landed with that, because he was already fucking angry. Like, I don't know, it didn't like.
He's just an angry little goblin.
Yeah.
Maybe a more interesting version of this episode is like, he's had this traumatic life in Quartoth, and then he comes to LA and he's so, sort of traumatized and out of his element that he like seeks some peace by taking heroin. Like, I completely forgot the smackhead storyline in this episode, and I was like, oh yeah, like a character like Connor probably would be drawn to, some kind of substance.
He knows how to exist like that, right? He knows how to just like, I mean, not that we know fully what it was like in Quartoth, but one would assume he knows how to exist without like luxuries or like I would assume, I mean, I guess we never really see, but I would assume he didn't have like a childhood bedroom. You know what I mean? Like I would.
Right. I always figured he like, grew up in a cave or something.
Yeah.
I like to imagine that Holtz somehow rebuilt his family home that we saw
In a hell dimension.
in a hell dimension. It's just hanging out there. There's like a fire demon in the background. Like,
Hey, you see the news today, Holt?
Can you believe who they elected in America? Fuck.
I wouldn't even vote for that guy.
Yeah, like, but so yeah, it does make sense that he would befriend a woman who's like nice to him and is like, okay, let's just keep going. Oh, like we got this food, but and like, I don't know, that could be interesting, but it's just not. I don't know.
They keep going back to it, like in season 4 when he's ousted from the group. You know, there's footage of him like sleeping rough, and so they keep going back to this. Like Connor is an outcast. He doesn't have any. He does nowhere in this universe like that he can call home. And yeah, I just wish that they'd committed to like one arc of that where it has like a beginning, a middle, and an end. You know, he could live in the Slam Rush house or whatever it was that they're in this episode.
Well, the thing is, it's like you said, commit to one. It's like it feels like we do this. We keep doing this. And that is my biggest issue with Connor is that his writing, it's like, it feels, you know, at the end of this episode, I mean, we get the kicker I'm already jumping, but like the end of this episode almost feels like him and Angel are kind of okay. And then Holtz throws the wrench into that, sure. But then, like, it feels like we just redo this every few episodes.
Every couple of episodes for the next like year, it's them not under not even if they're not understanding, but basically flip flopping on. Connor hates Angel. No, now he trusts him, and Angel hates Connor, but oh no, now he loves him. Because there was several moments in this episode that I was like, oh yeah, like for most of the time that Connor is in the show, as soon as he stops being a baby, it's like Angel hates him. Which is a lot of fathers that I know, to be fair.
Right, yeah.
Once you become a teenager and you have that was my stepfather. You know, once you become a teenager with your own ideas, that relationship becomes a lot more combative.
Well, and I would challenge anyone who finds Dawn annoying to look at what they did with Connor.
Yes,
Dawn
worse.
she's a product of her environment, and I like a lot of what they do with her character because it mostly feels pretty natural to how a person growing up in her environment would behave. But with Connor, it's like we never see Quartoth, so we don't know really what happened there. He comes into this world with his own ideas around morality, and he just never gets his footing because like you said, Philip, they just keep flip-flopping him around, and it's such wasted opportunity. He could have been a decent character.
He could have been,
and I think Vincent Kartheiser, I think that's how you say his name, is a decent actor. I've talked about him before. I liked him in the movie Masterminds. I only watched the first 2 seasons of Mad Men, but he's good on that show. He's not a bad actor. His character is just this weird amorphous blob that they never quite shape into something that makes sense.
Yeah. So someone mentioned in the Discord, they were like, but you all hate Connor and Justine, but I feel bad for those characters. And I was like, well, sure, I can feel bad for them, but I still think they're badly written. I said, I just think it's not that we are not sure. Yeah, the woman had her twin sister killed by a vampire. Sure, that's sad. Sure, Connor grew up in a hell dimension. It's the writing that's not there for me. It's not that it's like, I don't care. He grew up in a hell. It's like, no, the writing around the character is just like not dynamic.
I think the problem that the end of this season falls into is they are essentially introducing a brand new character, and instead of putting the work into writing a brand new character, they're like, no, this is Connor. You know Connor. And it's like, well, yeah, Connor was a baby. It's like, you know, if you had like a distant cousin or something, and it's like, oh, well, the last time I saw you, you were a baby. And then you meet them now and they're like a teenager, and you're like, oh, do you still like rusks or whatever?
Right.
It's just, you have to get to know them on a completely, you know, starting from scratch. And it's sort of, like, oh, this was the baby that everyone was so emotionally attached to. Is like, yeah, that doesn't translate to this is like now an adolescent who's trying to kill you and
right.
has his own thoughts and feelings. And it just like, obviously it's supposed to be jarring because like he's aged up over, overnight essentially. But it doesn't land because like I don't even feel like we ever really get to know Connor like on his own terms.
It's kind of the opposite of the Gruselug, because we meet the Gruselug in Pylea, and we get to know him through Cordelia very quickly. And then when he comes to our dimension, he's already a character we know. He's been through some other stuff, and that shapes who he is moving forward. And we know that he tries to find his way in the group. He tries to be who he is, kind of balanced with who everyone else wants him to be. And it ends up falling apart for him because that's just not super true to who he is. And I feel like his arc is the right way. Well, not the right way, but a more effective way to do that. And they could have done something similar with Connor, but they just don't.
Yeah.
You're so right. And I hadn't thought about kind of comparing those two characters because they're so different. But the economy of storytelling with Gru, where in a handful of scenes, there is, over the course of this season, there is an entire arc. And we get so much of Connor. And there isn't that same overarching story because I think, because they skip on the origins of letting us know where he's coming from, like showing us, kind of what made him who he is. So much of the show seems to be, and again, talking about like toxic parenthood, like Angel just seems to see Connor as an extension of himself and he's trying to impose his own will on him. Also, I feel like David Boreanaz, I know we rag on his acting a lot. His acting is at its absolute worst when he's trying to be a concerned dad.
Yes.
He's like, I know that you were raised in a gulp hell dimension. And it's like I'm sorry, this episode fucking blowed.
Yeah. I was talking about this with someone last night, actually. Joe, hi Joe, if you're listening, who does a lot of the figureheads of the figures I photograph. And I forget what he said, something about what we said in the episode where he like Angel tries to kill Wesley. And I was like, no, I get all your points. I think it's just the acting doesn't sell any of it. And it just makes me cringe. Like you said, Philip, anytime it's like he has to go into those emotions of like protective dad, like his voice changes. It's like me acting those scenes. I don't know. Like, it's just like, it's not, he's good at like two things. And like, let's keep it to that because once Cordelia comes back, the episode where she sits with him and she's like rubbing his back and she's like, I'm really sorry. I'm like, this is the emotional beat I needed. This is the acting I needed to sell me on this is sad, not Angel's like sad barking. I don't know. It just was awkward for me to watch. Like when he comes in and sees him, he's like, did they put any of that in you? Oh my God. And I'm like, oh, this is terrible. Like
it's from a different show entirely.
Yeah.
It's so about like teenage runaways and drug abuse.
I do think his best moment in this show though is I think when he's with Fred and Gunn and they say something about all the action he took against the drug gang, and Angel goes, he was raised in a hell dimension, okay? Like, go easy on him. And that's a nice little subtle comedic beat, and that is the stuff that generally works well for him.
We know that David Boreanaz is really good when he's being evil or goofy. And he doesn't really get to be either in this episode because everything is played with such a straight face.
Yeah.
Including, just to kick us off at the start of the episode, the slow motion and wire work, because this was, 2002, and everyone had seen The Matrix?
Yeah, I wrote down bullet time. Nah, steak time.
Listen, hands up, I'm not going to lie. I was like, all right, this kind of looks cool. Like, I was kind of into it.
When it originally aired, it looked cool. But looking at it now, it's just like, oh no, what are we doing?
I think they figure out how to use it better in season 4.
Yes.
And basically they use it to really telegraph, like in scenes with the Beast, they use it to show what a threat the Beast is, when you've got them all attacking him from all angles and it's in slow motion so you can see exactly what's happening, and he is just like beating them all without like any effort whatsoever. And like there are some good moments, but I think in this scene in the lobby, it was just also because I watched this just in isolation for this episode. There was Disney Plus for some reason did no previously on, so it just jumped straight into Connor firing the stakes.
Yeah, same with Hulu.
And I was like, what?
Yeah, because they expect you to have watched the previous episode.
Yeah.
it is a like it's a jarring start and weirdly short. Like normally those like kickers in the opening are
cold
like
open.
Longer. Yeah, like but if it feels like it's like you shoot some, we do slow motion and then we're credits.
Yeah. Also, I'm sorry, Cordy's hair. Oh, this is maybe the worst her hair gets.
Yeah,
it's pretty bad.
I think it gets worse at the end of the season.
Yeah,
no.
I feel like it's like they style it even worse by the end, and like
great.
Yeah, she's gorgeous. She could pull off almost anything, but like, oof, this hair. But again, this is one of those like this is very of the time, right? Like this was Kate Gosselin, whatever, like. And it's also like, I'm just like, but you have such thick, gorgeous hair. Why would you want to cut it in that like terrible shortcut? Like,
it's the chunky blonde highlights as well. It's just all so of the time. Yeah. Although I did notice like this is, I think from this episode or maybe the episode before where they start just dressing her entirely in white to kind of signal the journey that she's going to be going on in the finale. It's so obvious.
Because when I was actually reviewing quickly to like figure out what figures I was going to make and what pictures I was going to do. So from the previous episode till the next episode, it's like all within the same time frame. So they're all wearing the same outfit. But then in the finale, she changes into like a white, like moo sari type, like flowy thing. And it's like, oh, come on. But yeah, it is to like really sell us on like, look, she's good. But so we get this fight with Connor. Connor runs out because Angel can't kill him. I feel like this could be a cool setup where it's like, okay, we're setting up something cool, but then like, he runs out.
Well, first of all, there's this weird fake out where it looks like Angel's really trying to kill Connor.
Yeah.
And I was like, damn, Wesley was right. And it's almost like Angel gets so caught, and this again, this is the entire Angel Connor relationship. Like Angel gets so caught up in trying to win the fight, he forgets it's his child that he's fighting with.
And like I get annoyed because he does that, but then when Gunn later is like, well, what do you want us to do if you find him? He's like, he's my son, you better keep him alive. It's like, all right, fucking, like you've almost killed him 3 times already in this one episode. Like,
really, you try to kill him with your terrible acting. I'm sorry, I'm being such a hater because this.
No, I love it.
Another thing that I wanted to point out that I think I would have liked if it wasn't all done in again the same dramatic slow motion is Connor running out of the hotel into the sunlight where Angel can't follow him, which previously Darla did in season 2. But it's played so melodramatically, and then it's immediately followed with him with the really dodgy effect of Connor jumping onto the back of the bus.
It looks like he turns into like a claymation creature to climb on the bus. Like it just is like, oof.
And they really commit that effect. Like they show him like on green screen riding on top of the bus.
The green screen feels even almost worse because it's like, all right, this is what effects were back then, but like we didn't need the green. We didn't need it. I don't understand. Like it feels like that would have been easy to put him in like a fucking convertible and like film him that way. I don't know.
Like we're 1 year out from showing Buffy on top of a bus in the finale.
Right. So yeah, and also I think it was a kind of a callback to when I think it's like right when they get back to the hotel, Cordelia and Angel have that fight where she's like, and if Connor gets sick in the daytime, what are you gonna do? Like, how can you save him? But yeah. So
setting up the whole premise of the episode is Angel trying to save Connor, but Connor doesn't want to be saved.
Yeah. The only thing I was charmed by in this is when he's like gonna go find him, I think they could have done more of this, but at this point they don't care about Gru. They're just keeping him around so he can be like, you like Angel, I'm gonna leave. When he's like, go get him, man. Like I am charmed by like him trying to say like human language.
Because I dropped into this episode out of context, I kept seeing Gru in the background of the cold open, and I just kept thinking it was Wesley. I completely until that line where he's like, "Go succeed, man."
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh right, he's still in this for like the rest of the season." I forgot about that.
Yeah. They really just keep him to the background to be like, yeah, he'll leave soon. Because also, I feel like when he first arrives, they make sure to make it a point like, look, he could be the hero. Look, when, the one episode when Fred and Gunn call for Gru instead of Angel. But he doesn't really seem that like much more helpful than like Gunn, right? Like,
yeah.
It's the what do we need this character to do in any given situation? And it's because the episode is so much focused on Angel, and they kind of have to give like Cordelia a B plot. Well, the entire rest of the gang have the B plot of there's a portal still open in the hotel.
I think you mean Cosmic Crack.
Yeah.
Which was also almost my nickname for the episode.
You see that? So it's like that is like it's a B plot, but really it's almost like the C plot because it's so inconsequential. We get the fun little bit with the physical magic lady.
Yeah.
Oh, Mistress Myrna, who I fucking adore.
We do this so often.
She's so. I could absolutely see you dating her, Mae.
Oh, yes, please.
I feel like it's so weird. We do this a lot with Lauren, where like Lauren is like, "Here, this is my friend," and it's like this cool character that I would be like, "Yeah, make them stick around, have them reappear like occasionally," and then we just never see them again. Yeah,
it's a character that like they put a lot of work into the character design and like how her magic works for one scene.
Yeah, It's so weird. Yeah. Because I do think she seems charming. I like when she's like, no, I just put the goggles on because sometimes I get some schmutz in my eyes. And like,
it's so
just
cute.
Keeps appearing. Yeah. And when she appears by Cordelia and Cordelia screams, it makes me laugh. But it's like, it's weird because, then it's like, well, now we're done with her forever.
Right. She could have been such a great recurring character to bring in every couple of episodes. It's like David Herman's character in season 1. He was always fun to hang out with because he's a giant fucking nerd who's just so into what they do. Yeah. And then he just goes away.
Yeah, that I did read that it was like they just could not, because he was like one of those actors at that time that was like in everything.
And he does a shit ton of voice acting. He does a bunch of voices on Bob's Burgers and stuff.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, besides Office Space, he has been doing very well for a long time.
Yeah, I read that the only reason they dropped his character, which does seem weird if he wasn't like a main character, is there was always scheduling conflicts when they would try to bring him back. But I don't know, he's a reoccurring character. It doesn't matter. You can bring him back whenever. But we're getting way ahead of off of the
behind ourselves.
Yeah. We go to Wesley's apartment, and who shows up, Philip?
Oh my God, the queen of all our hearts, Lila. And she is such a top in this scene because she says, aren't you going to ask me in? And Wesley says, no. And she just walks right in anyway.
He's like,
I love
her. Lila is like the ultimate dommy mommy.
Yeah, she really is, right? Like, Philip, you're right, though. That scene, I love it because she doesn't care. She's walking in. She's just like, being a cat playing, like having fun with the mouse it's about to eat. Like, just like, you could say whatever you want. That's cute. I'm going to come in and talk.
It's the first that we see of, because I don't think that Wesley and Lila have ever directly interacted before.
I don't think so. Like, other than like maybe there's like a group of people. Yeah, I don't think it's been just them before.
This is the first glimpse we're getting of the back and forth that's going to kind of be their whole dynamic for the rest of Lila's time on the show.
Yeah.
And it's just so good. I feel like at this point, Wesley has really completed his transition into the grizzled anti-hero. He's there in jeans. Lila's dressed to the nines. And she's she's offering him a job. I'm just gonna say I would take Lila's offer. She had me at library. I'm very Belle and Beauty and the Beast like that. And there's just like the when she's like, oh, you think you're above me, but like you're a Judas. So like she, like giving him the copy of the Inferno. It's just like, oh, so good.
Everything she does is so good, and she has such a shit-eating grin the entire scene. Like, I love it. And I also would, I mean, not even just the library, but like good pay and benefits. You know what? Sure, I will come work for you. Like,
yeah, I'll work for this evil law firm.
Like, why not? Right? I don't fucking know.
In this economy,
what other office is he getting at this point? You know, he has his own apartment in downtown LA. That can't be cheap.
Yeah. I think we determined on another episode that that's Daddy's money.
Oh, right.
Yeah. Oh my God, what am I turning into? I've said mommy and daddy in this episode.
I like that you're like, that's so off character for me. Oh.
It is. It really is.
Oh, it's a Connor episode. Everything is going to be mommy and daddy from here on out.
And now I just want to yell daddy, mommy, like long legs.
God.
So yeah, there's that great scene. And then we go back to the Connor storyline. I'm sorry. Where I think it's Fred and Gunn basically have been like following in Connor's wake through LA, and Gunn says, oh yeah, he's not been causing mayhem, but just people aren't used to seeing a guy in animal skins riding a bus. Not south of Santa Monica Boulevard anyway. Is that a gay joke? Is that like a West Hollywood joke? Like these gays with their pride and their floats.
Oh, maybe. Now that you're saying that, maybe, because Santa Monica Boulevard is WeHo.
Yeah, and that makes it so much funnier that it's Gunn delivering.
Yeah, that is Gunn delivering it.
Oh my God, this show acknowledged gays. And moving on.
So he finds a woman being kidnapped, attacked, whatever.
Yeah.
Well, she's trying to buy drugs, and her drug dealer is like, you don't have anything I want except, oh, you slapped me in the face, so I'm going to rape you.
Yeah. I was going to say, is that what we're, because like, I didn't quite get if it was like he was going to kill her or that. Yeah, I wasn't.
No, he said, now that you're going to have to work off. And then he shoves her in the car, and he's about to sexually assault her. And then Connor comes in and saves the day and cuts off his ear.
Cuts off his fucking ear. I do feel like there should have been a bigger reaction, because he like the guy's just like, ah, and it's like he sliced your fucking ear off.
He's like up and about like 2 scenes later.
Yeah.
Well, his buddies took him to the hospital. He got all patched up.
Yeah,
I'm sure there were no questions asked about why that happened.
I just have a note here saying that I think this character's name is Tyke, which I find
correct.
Yep. The most thinly written goon, and this is in a show that has a lot of thinly written goons, but this guy is so miscast because he looks and talks like the yuppie villain in an 80s movie.
Correct.
And he's meant to be like a hard-bitten drug dealer.
Yeah, he does not fit.
It's not landing.
No, not at all. Because I also was like, oh, is it going to be like he's like works in the office at Wolfram and Hart or something? Because it seemed like it was like someone acting as it didn't feel like this like hardened tough drug dealer.
A clear like transfer tattoo on his neck.
And I do think like I mean, not that I like this scene, it's fine, it's whatever, but like I think we could have had some kind of Connor plot like this, where it's like we do see him doing good, helping people, but then when it comes to his dad, he fucking hates him. But we don't really do much more of the, because then like next episode he like is with Holtz and Justine, and like
right, let him be a vigilante for a little while. Let him be Batman and be like, my parents are dead.
Right.
And we don't get that.
You know what? Like, let them do my least favorite storyline from Endgame, where Hawkeye just goes off and like murders like cartels.
When he becomes Ronin.
Yeah. Just do that and be like, we finally tracked him down because he left a trail of bodies in his wake. Like, do that.
Yeah, that would have been, even though I agree with you. Yeah, even though it's one of the worst stories in Endgame, that would have worked here. Like, I do feel like that would have been better.
Imagine if he used Sonny's death as motivation to start hunting down drug dealers in general. that could have been cool. That could have been a nice through line for a few episodes.
And there's resonance there because, drug dealers targeting teenagers and young women especially.
Right,
There's
yeah.
a lot of preying on that and taking their innocence, which is obviously what happened to Connor. But anyway, we're doing that thing where we rewrite things to try and make them better.
We fixed it.
Because it does feel like the reason we're doing this is because it will shape him, but it doesn't.
No.
That's what bothers me. It really feels like because we just, like you said, both of you have said, we didn't get the Connor story where like there was a baby. That's not a character. And like now we're seeing like, oh, he is kind of good, right? We saw him beat up Angel Investigations, but now he's helping this woman who needed help. And like he's not just like barking at her. She takes him to where she was going to stay. And like, he's nice to her. He's just awkward, doesn't know everything, right?
Right. He's not judging her.
Right,
He's not looking down on her. And I think if we're going to give Holtz any credit, I think the one thing that he instilled in Connor is the idea of kindness being paramount.
Yeah.
And using that motivation to protect people who are kind.
Yeah. Yes. And again, like, that does feel like that could be that's a good character beat. But we don't really like do
we don't
anything.
Explore it past this episode.
Yeah. Because I know Connor like does save people in season 4 and stuff, but it's never, I don't know. It just this doesn't mean anything in the greater context of Connor. Like it doesn't really other than like, look, he's not a straight up villain is I guess all they're doing to show us. I even thought he had better chemistry with this woman than he does with Justine. I was like, this lady is better than Justine. Like there's more going on with her.
Again, she's seriously miscast as a heroin addict, but she's so perky. But yeah, it's this moment of tenderness, and when she's like sharing the food with him, and you see him like smile because he's never had like a dessert before. It's very sweet. So obviously, then they have to kill her.
Right?
Yes. Yeah, of course.
So we get back at the hotel. Can someone explain to me isn't your neck stiff? Like, oh, Angel used to do that. I'm like, what are we doing? Like,
so yeah, this is the beginning of the end of Grudelia.
Yeah, it really
is. So basically, Gruselug is kind of, I guess, bragging or just telling her he's watching the rift. And he's standing very still. And he's like, yeah, I can do this all day, essentially. Because once I had to stand still for 11 days because there was this demon that coupled with anything that moved. Just like another fun, rape joke in this show.
You know how we do here, God.
It's like, honestly, if we were to start counting like every time there's a sexual assault reference per episode of Angel, it would
God.
It would not be a game. Well, and then that the way Cordelia almost seems jealous of the idea that he may have had sex with this demon. It doesn't seem like disgust on her part. It doesn't seem like she's upset that he could have gotten sexually assaulted. She seems like, oh, but I thought I was the first person you had sex with. And he reassures her of that, which is like kind of sweet, but it's a weird moment for Cordelia.
It is,
for this iteration of Cordelia.
Yeah. And so, yeah, essentially it's another way of drawing parallels between Gru and Angel, because she's like, oh, yeah, like Angel's always doing this thing where he regales me with tales of daring do, and I always get so bored. And then she has to be like, oh, no, but I love it when you do it. And you finally see, God bless this himbo, the puzzle is finally starting to come together for him. And he's like, oh, she cares about Angel so much more than me.
Yeah, and I do kind of like that Cordelia hasn't realized it yet. I do like that aspect of like, she very openly is like, oh yeah, Angel, blah, blah, blah. And when someone is like, you talk about him a lot, she's like, oh, well, he's going through a lot, but I love you. And it's like, girl. Like,
well, I think in this scene, she starts to realize, because he says something like, oh, well, as long as, it's you and me, not you and Angel. And then I can't remember what the exact line is. And then he kisses her and her eyes stay open. And she's like, oh, but then they get blasted with energy and they end up like being knocked out, and so we move on.
So I gotta, before we move on, I just have to say that when he said he had to stand still for, what was it, 11 days, my first thought was, did he shit his pants? Like what?
Same.
Ian,
Did he?
I love how committed you are to being like, but why is no one going to the bathroom?
I think about that. I have to pee a lot. Like,
Yeah, same. It's when you're a person who has to pee a lot and you grow up watching Star Trek where no one ever has to go to the bathroom, it's confusing.
I think about it all the time in slasher movies. I'm like, what would happen if you had to poop or like really had to pee and Michael Myers is chasing you? Like, I guess you just go in your pants. Like,
I mean, I guess you could pee on him and that would really throw him off.
but
Or
I mean,
like
Michael Myers, I feel like would just be like, what's that?
or
Okay,
or
fine.
like you pee on the floor and maybe he slips in it.
But I really do think about that a lot with this shit because I'm just like, but baby boy, how were you standing there for 11 days? Like,
And that's why it's bad to hold it. If you gotta go, go.
that gives you like a bladder infection. Anyway,
Correct.
so yeah.
Hey, we really care about your urinary health.
When I get Mark Lutz on the podcast, I'll be like, Guru said he stood still for 11 days. How did he pee? Important question. Now
He's
show me
probably
your
going to be
arms.
like, as the champion of Pylea, I have excellent muscle control and do not release my bladder or bowels unless I allow it.
Didn't have to, yeah. We see they're at the crime scene where the guy's ear was cut off. They mention that to Angel. I do, as you said, May, I like when he's like, well, he was raised in a hill dimension. That's like a funnier defensive dad beat
Yeah.
that lands.
Again, he's good when he's goofy.
Yeah,
And that is a silly line.
Yeah. He tells Gunn and Fred to just go back to the hotel because he wants to do it on his own. And immediately, because again, I didn't remember this episode, but I was like, no, please don't do it alone. Like, I don't want to have to sit through those conversations.
and just, for the people just listening, I'm going to make the jerk off and come motion. Like, come on, Angel. How many times do we have to go through this? You are better with your community.
Yes.
You get things done in a more efficient and more effective way. Stop trying to do shit by yourself. No one cares that you're being brave or you're displaying honor or any of that bullshit.
Yeah.
They're all there to support you. Let them.
And also, you know that this person has been raised by Holtz, that he would have been raised to hate demons. Maybe take along some human beings who might be able to bond with him.
Right.
Yeah, but, so we then go, where do we go?
So Connor and Sunny have a kiss, and then she's like, just gotta shoot up real quick, BRB.
I was like, oh, does she just abandon him? And I was like, oh no, she shoots up and dies, which like, oh. I gotta point out, I do like when she asks him where he's from and he says Cortop, she's like, oh, that's Mexico, right? Like, I do like that. And she's being so sincere about it.
It was a very sweet line. In a way, she reminds me of Lily in Anne.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, she's probably had like a really hard life, but, she's still willing to show kindness to this very weird kid who helped her.
Yes. And we even get the scene where he's like naked in front of her and she like turns and is like, oh, but then she like very respectfully, she's caught off guard, but then like keeps talking and like doesn't say, because she can tell there's like something like, like you said, she can tell he's like a weird kid. Maybe there's like something like, maybe he has like learning issues or he has social cue issues.
Oh, I was going to say like in 2024, like you'd look, if you were, anyone online would look at Connor and be like, well, clearly he has autism.
Right. Yeah. Like it's like, and I do like that she's kind of, although, okay. I was wondering, because I don't think Connor ever looks like he's 15 or 16 like he's supposed. I think they should have just made him 20 because that's what he looks like. Like I don't think he has a baby face. He is a twink, but I don't think he has that much of a baby face that like he ever looks that young. So
Agreed.
I was wondering if her and him were supposed to be the same age. Because like she doesn't look 16, but again, like she could pass for 20.
Everyone in the Buffyverse looks 21 at an absolute minimum.
Yes,
From Michelle Trachtenberg.
Except Jonathan.
Exactly. And Jonathan, who still looks 16. But yeah, Michelle Trachtenberg looked 14, and then in the next season she looked 20 because she shot
Yes.
up like 3 feet. Yeah, like everyone in these shows is like central casting. You know, he's like when he's getting undressed, it's like, oh, so you were doing your crunches in Palia because you have the body of a 20-year-old working in LA.
Hey, I mean, he's hunting demons all the time. I'm sure Holtz has him on a nice workout regimen. He's got to be ripped. And he's the child of 2 vampires, so he probably is predisposed to have that supernatural strength.
He's the child of 2 very hot people.
Yeah, also that, yes. Have you seen Julie Ben's workout videos on Instagram?
I have not, but I might go look.
Looks great. It bothers me because this scene isn't bad. Like, it's in the context of just this, it's like, this is well done, but like, it's just matters 0.0. And so what is it? He like finds, I kind of like mushed all this together. Just because.
So I'm sure there's some scene where, we go back to the hotel, Fred and Gunn walk in and find Gru and Cordelia unconscious. I'm assuming that we are meant to assume that while they were unconscious, a certain somebody came through the crack.
Correct. Yeah.
Through the crack, sorry. And then we go back to the sketchy sex house, and Connor wakes up. And there's a very long, like, it takes way too long for him to like go through all the
long. I fast forwarded through that. I was like, is he still walking? He's still walking.
and he eventually finds Sonny dead in the bathroom. So I'm like, oh, she kissed him and then was like, oh, I'll be right back. I'm just going to go get absolutely monged out on heroin. And then have a cuddle? What? So strange.
I don't quite understand that, but whatever. At least, because it's the show, the least I can say is at least they didn't make her like, she wasn't like stereotypical addict from a TV show like this from back then. At least they like gave her like a personality. Like, I know I'm like, the bar's low for that, but I'm like, you know what I mean? At least it wasn't like.
Yeah, I feel like the actress gave us something with limited material, which is often the case, I think, when you have like guest characters. It all depends on who's playing them. So then Connor turns around, and who is there? It's Daddy.
What terrible timing, though, right? It's like, the first friend he makes when he's back on this dimension, he finds dead, and Angel's like, what are you doing? Did she put drugs in you? And it's like, can you relax? Like,
right. And he's like grabbing his arm and like, let me check your brain. So yeah, it's a lot. And then and then what happens is they have like so many fights in this episode. They have like a little fight, I think, where again it's like, oh, Angel just really looks like he wants to smack this kid around.
Okay, also I gotta admit this because I have a filthy mind, and May, I know you do too, and sometimes you do, Philip. I feel like I'm the
I think I know what you're gonna say.
Sometimes it feels like there's sexual tension. Sometimes it does. And I'm not saying that's okay, but I'm just saying sometimes it's like, does Angel want to beat him up or fuck him? Like,
watching this time around, I was like, and again, I think it's like something in my brain has changed, but I was like, oh my God, like just kiss. Oh wait, no, that's just
right. So many times.
And then, I'm sure there's slash fic out there.
There is.
May, you read my mind, and then I remembered there is a fan fiction that I have never forgotten.
I am sweating. No. I'm glad you're the one to admit this first, Philip, because yes, go on. I might have read it too.
You know what? I read it. I didn't know what I was reading until when I went in, but essentially it's set after the end of season 3. No, after the end of season 4, when Connor no longer has his memories. And he meets this guy one night who's like tall and dark, and they have a thing. And it's revealed at the end.
I think I've read this. Oh my
God. So wait, he and Angel fuck in that fanfic?
Oh yeah, and then at the moment of climax, Angel goes, Connor, and Connor's like, who's Connor?
So Angel is aware that he's fucking his own child in this fanfic.
It's very I mean, okay, spoilers for the film Old Boy. It's very that where he's like, I just want to connect with him.
Anyway,
I am sweating, but I'm glad that we all saw. I was like, can I say on the podcast that it feels like Angel's about to fuck this guy? Because like, it really, every time you were like, and he just wants to fight him, I'm like, well, that's not the F word I was going to use. But
think of another F word, Ian.
But and again, it's not. Yeah, it's just the way Angel like, and I get that it's because he's trying to do like fatherly acting, but it just doesn't quite feel that way.
As I was saying, I watched this with my husband, who had no context for the show, and he was like, "That's his son. That's his son. That's his son. Right? No, that's not his son." Like,
yeah, it comes off very much like a hunk and a twink doing a scene where they're doing like angry father-son fantasy role play.
Very, very icon male. Very family dick. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm on record on multiple podcasts saying I do not understand incest porn. It holds absolutely no appeal for me. No judgment for people who enjoy it. It's
Philip
just
and I've never watched it either. Yeah. No. Anyway, continue. Sorry. Yes.
I think that's the end of my thought.
You know what? Let's move on. I feel that this has genuinely made this episode so much more enjoyable. Okay, they've had that little tussle, and Angel's like, Connor, and Connor says, "That's not my name. My name is Steven." And that made me laugh.
I did not remember that Holtz, because I was like, where the fuck did that come from? And I looked and it was like, Holtz did say that was it, right? Like at some point.
I'll call him Steven.
And Angel is trying so hard to be cool with it. I mean, he dead names him like 5 seconds later, but he's trying to be cool with it. And he says, "Oh, okay, that's a good name. It's not Irish." And I'm like, Angel, neither are you.
Yeah, like, come on. I want you both to know, because I didn't remember I was like, did he just make up that name on the spot, like on the floor? Was like, no, let's do Steven. Let's do that. So we get a quick scene of Wes looking at his copy of The Inferno.
Oh God, right? Because they were like, "Oh, we're keeping Dennis off per episode, so give him something to do."
Did two of you remember? I feel like both of you. I feel like all of my co-hosts this season remember Angel better than I do. I don't understand. He doesn't ever say yes, right? But they do start a relationship. So I'm like, I'm not quite. I don't remember the like.
So I think it's in the next episode when there's like a big fight in the nightclub, and Lila is there watching Connor, and Wesley is also there watching Connor. And basically, like, because they're both kind of watching Angel and Connor from the shadows, they stay in the shadows together and they start doing some fun things in the shadows.
Oh, does their relationship start next episode?
Uh-huh.
Oh, yeah. I didn't realize that. I thought we like toyed with it until the finale. I thought that's when it like started.
No, I think you're right, Philip. I think it's the next episode.
I think you're both right, because literally, I'm not joking when I say my co-hosts this season have all remembered Angel better than me. I'm like, have I watched this show? Yeah, so I guess my thing was I do like Buffy and Angel both do this pretty well, where they like drop a thing and like we toy with it, but we're not going to do that. We're going to wait a whole season before we like do the plot point of would one of them work at Angel Investigations? And the answer is yes, they all will. Or,
do you mean Wolfram and Hart?
Yeah. Kind of like in season 4 when like Giles, we see that Giles is like kind of fallen out of the group, and then season 5 he tells Willow, "I'm gonna leave," but then he doesn't leave, and then season 6 he does leave. I feel like
great timing, bud.
Yeah, I feel like these shows like to do that, and they do that well, right? I like that, but I just was like, I couldn't decide if I thought this was on purpose or this was what I feel about season 4, that everything was a full fucking rewrite, and like they dropped that here so they could get to it at the end, or if it was like they had that idea in passing that, oh, she offers him a job, but of course he's not going to take it. Why would they take it? And then next season, they're like, you know what? Let's do that plot. We go back to the hotel. Lauren comes in with his, what's her name?
Mistress Myrna.
Mistress Myrna. I get a
with
kick
her
out of
beautiful blue hair and her amazing cape.
Okay, I have something probably stupid to say. I felt like that hair didn't look like a wig. Like, I felt like this part of it where it's like pulled back, I was like, oh, that doesn't look like a wig. Does she have blue hair? Like, I was
Maybe.
like, because she could have, right?
Or it could just be a really well applied wig.
All right. So normally I'm always the worst one at spotting a wig, and like usually I say that, and then everyone else in the episode's like, Ian, that was so obviously. What are you talking? Like, I could see the lines. What are you talking about? But right, this did look good. Like, I feel like because it was pulled back, I was like looking, and I was like,
I mean, it's possible I was just distracted by how hot she is that
That's
I didn't
also-
really care.
I mean, there is that, but it's done in this very, like, she's almost got like a kind of it's like Rita Hayworth but blue. She's got like a nice wave in it.
Yeah.
Like, it's very set.
Yeah.
So it could be either.
I also love that she's this like mystical. We don't really know what she is. We don't know if she's a witch. We don't know exactly what her powers are, but she just talks like a normal person. Because sometimes you have people on the show who have mystical powers and they have a very distinct way of speaking. And she's, like you said, Ian, she's like, no, sometimes I just get some schmutz in my eye. She's just a nice lady.
I think Angel and Buffy did that the best. I think supernatural shows since then have tried to repeat that funness of like, look at this, like, you know, supernatural being. And then they're like, sup guys? Like, they're like silly and goofy. I think no show has done it as well as Buffy and Angel has done it.
Myrna is like, she's almost like the opposite of the Transcending Furies from earlier in the season.
Oh, yeah.
You know, they are so ethereal and they speak in unison, and they're so meant to, they evoke, you know, the oracles from season 1.
Angel.
And then Myrna, like, she has this like perspicacity of like, she is slightly displaced in space and time, which is a fun sight gag in this scene. But when she's in, wherever she is, she's just like very down to earth and like, yeah, I'm gonna get on with the job, and then like seems like something horrible might be coming, so I'm gonna get out. Bye.
Yeah, and I kind of like that. There's no like, it's just, yeah, she did it. Now she's going. Like, there's there wasn't like a problem. She did it pretty easily. I did think of her when she's walking down the steps. One, I was like, oh, the Cordelia is going to walk down these steps in season 4 in an outfit like this, and I'm not going to like it. But I also thought, did y'all ever, there was that tweet that went viral a while ago that was like, Disney will be like, this evil witch, and then it's the hottest MILF breasting boobily down the steps. Like, that's what I thought of with her.
It's Catherine Hahn.
Fair, yes. So we wrapped that up. The Angel and Connor stuff, I have like 2 notes about this, but it's like,
I was about to say, I have 1 note left, and it's just, they make sure to give Connor a giant leather duster, just like Daddy.
Yeah, I said, or the only thing I wrote down for this was, you have a second face, a face for killing. And it's just like, okay.
That reminded me of Twilight, where it's like, I'm a killer, Bella. It's like, oh god,
this is the skin of a killer, Bella.
Yeah.
But we have the whole thing. The drug dealer and his cronies show up, but of course the cops are looking for them, and then there's this gigantic shootout. And I like action movies when they're well done.
Yes.
This is so fucking boring. I literally just picked up my phone and was like, scrolling Instagram during this whole scene because it's so, it has no impact whatsoever. Even Angel jumping in front of the shotgun to save Connor, and then they just leave. And it's just like, that's supposed to be a deep moment where Connor can see like, oh, this man really does care for me. He would potentially sacrifice himself for me, except also Angel's a vampire, so the bullets are gonna hurt, but
and
that's
we know
about
that
it.
Angel knows that, like,
right, and Connor likely knows that because Holtz told him all about vampires. So it's such, it almost becomes an empty gesture because it's like, yeah, no big deal, whatever. I'll have Cordelia or Fred pick this buckshot out of my back.
Yeah. No big deal.
And it's the first of so many, kind of reversals of us thinking that they're growing closer and that Connor is coming around, and then, oh no, Connor's going to betray him, or it turns out Connor was lying the whole time.
Yeah.
Right. And they like walk out together, and Angel's like, you can come stay at the hotel. It's fine. We have space for you. We'll take care of you. And Connor's like, peace out, Dad. And then goes and meets up with Holtz.
So that whole thing, like, I get that it's like Connor, even if we're not the Holtz of it all, like, it's like, no, Connor needs to figure this out on his own, but Connor literally has nothing. Like,
yeah.
I understand that, like, Angel and him argued a lot. We spent a lot of fighting. It feels like Angel should have pushed a little harder to be like, but where are you gonna stay? Like, are you gonna eat? Like, I can give you food. Like, you can have a whole wing of the hotel and not even look at me.
Have you heard of this thing called money? You're going to need some.
Yeah, like, he doesn't know he doesn't know any of that. So It feels like this is a person who, like, definitely needs someone, not that he needs to live with them, but like needs someone that he can be like in contact with throughout the day to be like, hey, how do I do this? Hey, how do I get different places here? Like, I don't know how to drive.
And even if it's not Angel, he could have been like, here's this thing called a cell phone.
Yes.
And here is this person called Cordelia who will help you.
Yes. And that's all I kept thinking of was like, but like, theoretically, he could just die because, like, like you said, Philip, he doesn't even know what money is. Like, and because he was raised in a hell dimension, so like he wouldn't know the most basic things. So I'm like, but like, Angel, aren't you afraid he's gonna die if you just leave him? Because like he doesn't know how the world works. But I get we're trying to be like, oh, Angel's not gonna try to force him to do anything. Sure. And I mean, at this point we know he at least has super strength, I guess. So he's got some kind of superpowers and stuff. Yeah, then he just walks into that fucking alley and sees old man Holtz, and I was like, again.
This old age makeup is so bad.
So bad. At first I saw the outline of the crispy wig and I thought it was Sarjan again.
Then I was like, see him again until 5, right?
Correct.
Yeah, I don't think so. Yeah, but then I was like, well, okay, we've established that these people don't have phones. How did they arrange when and where to meet?
Exactly. Like, has Holtz just been following him around this whole time and observing him from the shadows? It's ridiculous.
And he's like 100 years old at this point, so I don't imagine he moves that fast, right? Like, he's got this terrible old man makeup on. And yeah, I'm like, he was right there. Like, how? And also, I like Holtz, the idea of Holtz. I've said this all season, but like in practice, I'm like, oh God, he's so boring.
Well, and also the idea that Angel wouldn't smell Holtz, he wouldn't be able to detect him in any way. And also, how do we, besides the fact that they don't have phones, Holtz comes through the portal after Connor, like way after Connor. Did they talk before they came through the portal about a meeting place and time? Like, how did this work?
Wait, Connor was surprised. I thought Connor was surprised by him. I thought it was like Connor was like, he sees him and is like, oh, hey, Dad.
But it's such a casual hi, Dad. I think they just wanted the symmetry of ending both episodes with hi, Dad.
Maybe.
Again, the at the top of a very long list of things about Connor that could have done with a second draft.
Yes. That's kind of it. All right. Well, I have some trivia about this episode. Lila says that Wolfram and Hart has the finest library of mystical, occult, and supernatural reference material in the world, which is seen in the season 4 finale home. Connor uses the name Steven. Holtz gave it to him in Sleep Tight, which I do not remember. Holtz says that he and Connor were brought back by forces beyond their control. This implies the powers that be may have had a hand in bringing Connor back as a part of the chain events that lead to Jasmine's birth.
But didn't we determine that has nothing to do with the powers that be and that it's actually in opposition to what they want?
Isn't it that the powers that be are actually... Oh, right, because Skip isn't actually the powers that be. He's like an evil...
Correct.
This is the weirdest trivia that I feel like is a stretch, but I read this on the wiki. It said the character of Sunny may be a reference to a character by the same name in Catcher in the Rye, Both girls are poor teenagers who are encountered by adolescent men in times of need, dealing with existential crises. Connor and Holden Caulfield. While Sunny from the novel is a sex worker, Sunny from this episode is a drug addict. Like, I don't really feel like that feels like a stretch, right?
I mean, who wrote this episode?
A man. If it's a man, then I believe it.
Yeah.
Listen, I say this all the time. My Catcher in Rye is still one of my favorite books. It still is.
Yeah.
I know, like, a lot of like
fine.
dumb guys like it, but it is one of my favorites. But I am also a cis man, so
And I hate that book, but you know what? I was just telling you about the fanfic I was reading around the same time. So what can I say?
All right. I guess now that we're at the end, favorite outfit, Philip.
Oh God. Connor's outfit? No, I'm just kidding. I think it's going to have to be
We might all pick the same
the
thing.
cape and the dress that Miano is wearing.
Yeah, Mae.
Same, obviously.
Same.
I would wear that. I would date her. She is amazing.
You would, Mae. You would.
I really
Like, you would date her and or wear that outfit.
Yeah, I mean, hey, if we're the same size, we can share outfits. We're definitely not the same size.
Favorite scene, Mae?
Wesley and Lila. It's just great. It's a great little tete-a-tete. It's, again, Lila is like a dommy mommy, and Wesley thinks he's a dom, but he is absolutely not at this point. So they're just kind of like vying for power in this conversation, and Lila knows that she has all the power in this conversation.
That's the thing I will always love about Lila is she knows in a conversation if she has the upper hand, if she does not. Like, she knows, like, when her and Angel are together, she is not stupid and unaware of the fact that he could kill her. Like, she does know that. Like, she knows exactly what she can get away with in what situation, and I love that about her. Philip?
No, absolutely the same. We all know that Wesley went to, an all-boys boarding school. He's used to being pegged, and this is just another, step in that fine tradition. No, the relationship between Wesley and Lila is genuinely one of the things I like most about the season that's coming up. And they're sowing the seeds here. They're both just like such great performers. I love that they're giving Lila someone new to play with in scenes, and like the chemistry is so hate fucky already. Yeah, it's great.
I am curious to see how I'll think about it when we go through the podcast. I never liked them together, but it's because I felt like Wesley was too much of like a wet blanket with the two of them, where it's just like a walking boner, and like she's like, look, I'm hot and confident, you're gonna fuck me, and I like that about her. But for me,
I'm just stuck on walking boner.
Well, right, it's like he's just like, whoop, when he sees her, like he gets like rigid, and I get it, but like this is where I get like this sometimes if I love a character, and I don't not like Wesley. I do like Wesley. I think he has great character development. I just love Lila so much, and I'm like, pick someone better, girl. Like, pick some like hot, confident dude that you can top. Like, not this like wimp who's like depressed and like.
Yeah, I love that all season you've been talking about Lila like she's one of your best girlfriends, and you're just like, you go for drinks together, and you're like, dump him.
Listen, Stephanie Romanoff and I are friends now after our interview, so maybe it's a little bit of that, but it happened before that too, so I don't know. Oh yeah, that's my favorite scene too. I don't know if I said that, but grade for this episode, Philip?
D for daddy.
Mae, what grade do you give this?
This is going to be the harshest grade I've ever given anything on Slayerfest. This is a D+.
Ooh, shit. I feel better. I said C/D, but I think I'm going to land a D+ as well. I think, yeah, this is especially rough considering we have 2 episodes left. It's like,
I do think that going into the next episode, there's like some more good drama in that. You've got as much as we all hate Justine, there is that dramatic irony of Holtz and Justine are back, but Angel doesn't know yet, and like there's more interplay where it's just like the homeless drug addict storyline here was such a slog, and then like the weird like wire stuff, it was so ported in from another show.
Yeah.
And I just like didn't, and you know that you don't have to care about any of it because like all those characters end up dead. So
Yeah, and I feel like it's especially bad that they leave and it's not even, that scene's not done. And they leave. Like the scene, like the people are getting shot and they just jump out a window and like that's it. We're done with that whole thing. And before we get to the end, if you like Slayerfest 98, you can find us on all podcasting platforms and you can watch our video recordings because all of our episodes are now video recordings on our YouTube channel. Subscribe to us wherever you watch us and give us a like and or a good rating, please and thank you. If you want to support us, you can find us on Patreon, where we're going through Buffy season 4 for its 25th anniversary. We are also old. Also slowly X-Men the Animated Series, Batman the Animated Series. We have some Zoom watches, some Zoom hangouts, and some other bonus content. Zachary Patton Garcia and I do My Nudie Judy. We have been doing interviews with porn stars and porn watch-alongs, which are hilarious to watch with a friend. So you can catch those there too. And if you want to find us on social, we are at Slayerfest X98 on all social media platforms. I am Ian X Carlos on all platforms. Philip, where can everyone find you?
You can find me on Instagram at Philip Ellis. That's Philip with 1 L, Ellis with 2. And you can find my novels, Love and Other Scams, and We Could Be Heroes in wherever you get your books.
And Mae, where can everyone find you?
You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd, and Blue Sky at Everson Poe. That's EversonPoe. You can find my music on Bandcamp and streaming services by looking for Everson Poe, 2 separate words. You can hear me over on Tender Subject talking about The Substance, which is still my #1 movie of the year and is unlikely to move out of that spot. We had a really fun discussion about it. And you can hear me every week on the Lady Killers, the Feminine Rage podcast. We just recorded last night on Addams Family Values, which was really fun. And the next one we're recording is You're Next, which I maintain is a Thanksgiving movie, which is why it's going to be coming out around Thanksgiving for us.
Is that why they're going home to the family because it's Thanksgiving?
I don't know if they ever officially state it, but it very much feels like a Thanksgiving movie. It looks like fall. The family's all gathering for a dinner. It's a Thanksgiving movie in spirit, if not in direct theme.
I'll buy it. That's fine. That's you said it confidently, so I buy it. Thank you both for joining me. Thank you all for listening, and we will see you next time. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.